Good morning, all. This is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is, hang on, wait a second. All right, this is the pre-market webinar for the morning of Thursday, the 11th of June. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing and learn from it, transfer it to your own chance. I'm not here to share trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at chartingthemarkets.substack.com. It's published on YouTube after a delay of 24 hours. All right, my brother actually rang me up about gold this morning and asked where it was on it. So he doesn't really know an ETA. But he does a lot of investing. And he was asking about where we were on gold, and what I was saying was, this is a very, very encouraging bull flag channel, which is really nice. But I said that made me thinking of you, actually, George, because that I said that what I was concerned about when we reached this point here was that this was basically a flag that we had retraced 50% of the move down from the high, and the perfect time to go back and retest the low is from close to the 50%, because you can then set up a double bottom which has a target back at the highs, and that's what I was concerned would happen, and that is what has happened. So he said, well, it's time to go into gold, and I said now. So he was mainly talking about gold miners, but the effect is much the same. Now, having said that, we may go down a little further. But I don't think there's a good case for going down a lot further. We're obviously very oversold. We're as oversold as we were when we were reaching this low first. But you will note that here I am wondering about a rally and then a retest to set up positive divergence. I've got this marked as a 6 RSI 5 buy signal fixed, but obviously this RSI 5 buy signal failed. Hey, Doug. I'm just doing gold first because we reached an interesting stage. So I'm thinking we may see a rally and a bit of a retest. And in terms of a lower target, I don't have one on gold, but we haven't quite reached the low retest on silver. And I'm thinking that may well be needed to set up a nice looking double bottom there. But I'm thinking this is the kind of area I was thinking this would be where precious metals would start being a strong buy, because I was concerned, and remember I was mentioning this to you when you were asking me about it, I was concerned that we would come back and retest this level, and we have now retested it. I'm looking for a low on gold and silver, and I'm looking for the move to start with this nice looking double bottom to take us back up to the retest of the all-time high of 5608. Could we go a bit lower? Yes. Is there a good case for doing so? No. And I'm not really seeing any unfinished business here at all. So we will see whether we get that. All right. Anyway, moving on back to scheduled programming. Let's have a look at ES. Now, it's certainly been a very interesting night. Obviously, the US went back to bombing overnight, and it's been very interesting for a number of reasons. Now, a number of things happened overnight which can be interpreted really as good news. One, the Iranians responded fairly aggressively, but they confined themselves to just attacking US bases. All these US bases have been empty since March. They're mainly symbolic targets, although obviously they're causing property damage. What they didn't do, even though the US has in the last couple of days attacked their oil infrastructure and attacked a reservoir, i.e. civilian infrastructure, and threatened to attack more civilian infrastructure. Technically war crimes, of course. But what they didn't do was respond in the way that they said they would, which is to start attacking civilian infrastructure across the Gulf, Saudi and other Gulf state oil infrastructure, natural gas infrastructure, water, desalination plants. I mean, effectively, if they can knock out a number of desalination plants, they can actually make much of the Persian Gulf effectively uninhabitable due to lack of water. They haven't done that. Now, that actually was quite encouraging news. The other news that was interesting was that the Turks and Qatar have confirmed that actually negotiations really have been going on. And that they're pretty close to an agreement. Now, that's actually, well, I mean, Trump's word isn't worth a great deal. So, I mean, frankly, just on his word, I wasn't even sure the Iranians were negotiating. But now we've got confirmation they were, and they're actually pretty close to an agreement. What the US seems to be doing here is seeing if it can bomb its way to slightly better terms. I'm not sure that's going to work, and if Trump doesn't feel he can accept the agreement, back at current terms, then it may be that we're going to see the war escalate anyway. But it's encouraging that there is an agreement, it's been negotiated, and that it's close. Although I would note that actually this war started from exactly that position. An agreement had been negotiated with the Iranians. It was Qataris reckoned they were basically on the verge of an agreement, and then the US invaded anyway because Israel wanted to. So just because you're close to an agreement doesn't mean there's going to be an agreement, but it's encouraging that there actually is one, and this isn't just something that's going on in Trump's head. So we will see how that goes. But in the short term, nothing really much has changed since yesterday. We did see a retest of the low on ES, but we're not going to get double bottoms on the RTH charts unless we see those double retests in RTH. We've got a double bottom on the ES chart, and that's not nothing, but it's not a lot either. So if we are going to see a decent bottoming setup here, that's going to need to be retested in RTH. Otherwise, there are other options, and I'll have a look at those, but that would be the best option. The rally from last night's low, which was slightly mystifying, was so strong, 100 handles off the US, the overnight low, that I think maybe 120, that I'm wondering whether we're going to see that retest. Otherwise, what I was talking about in terms of the bullish setup here remains true. We don't have any positive divergence on the futures charts, but on ES, we retested the low, and we've got a possible little double bottom set up here. Unless we get very bad news, but obviously in this environment we could get very bad news. If Iran starts hitting desalination plants, and if they basically give up on any peace process and starts hitting Saudi and Qatari, etc., oil infrastructure, at that point we've got very, very bad news. So it's a risk. But on NQ, we didn't quite come back and retest the low, and this again was an overnight low. I'm wondering if we might do that in RTH and set up a nice looking double bottom there. RTY still kind of looks like a bull flag actually. YM, this could be a bull flag too. This would be the flag resistance. Obviously at the moment it's looking like a head and shoulders, but I was saying in my post yesterday that I was skeptical about any of these head and shoulders making target, although if there is bad news, then of course we could get it without punching through the 3SD lower band just by hanging around for 2 or 3 days. That would have the bands expand enough that it could be done without it. In terms of DAX, really not sure what's happening here at all. Could be a double top, maybe. ESTX, we've actually got quite a nice looking double top here after a retest of this high. We'll see how it goes. Nikkei, head and shoulders broken down. Again, this could actually be a bull flag. We will have to see how it goes. But the flag resistance would be here, if this is a flag, and this could be. You quite often get these things forming basically contradictory patterns because it's an either or in an inflection point. So here we've already got a potential double bottom. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. Now, first thing to say is that, actually, I'll have a quick look at the oil odds charts, which are quite amusing overnight. Odds of the straightforward moves returning to normal by the end of June is now 7%, but obviously, of course, we're almost halfway to the end of June, so we're running out of time on that one. In terms of July, that's actually now down. That was at 35% a couple of days ago. That's now down at 26%. So obviously that's fairly pessimistic. I think people are still reasonably optimistic, of having it open by December 31, but that's several months away. I'm not sure that means a great deal. All right, looking at SPX. And actually looking at the keys first. All right, first thing to mention here, and this is something I mentioned on the on my post yesterday, was we now have a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing on the daily chart. Is this contradicting the fixed RSI 14 sell signal? No, because these are on different time frames effectively. What this can do is make the target go up and make the target here before that comes down and makes the target there. You see this actually quite a lot. So I am actually taking this RSI 5 possible RSI 5 buy signal pretty seriously. We do not have a corresponding divergence on SPX. I was wondering if we might get that. In terms of ES, we went down and retested the low there. Although it doesn't seem. Oh, okay. We're not seeing the overnight action on this chart. But in terms of a bottoming pattern, what we don't have here is a retest of the low to set up a double bottom, which would be what I would prefer to see. So I'm thinking still we might go down and see that, or maybe we'll break up directly from here. But if we are breaking up directly from here, then this could be A, B, C, A flag. That would increase the chances that we will then come down and retest the low. So we will see. In terms of the hourly charts, we've also got, I haven't marked, sorry, I haven't written it in yet, but we've got a possible hourly RSI 14 bicycle brewing on SPX, and we've got another brewing on the Qs. And it's been the Qs and SPX been driving the bus on the way down, and chances are they'd also be driving the bus on the way up. That's where we've got positive divergence, and it's pretty nice. In terms of the 15-minute charts, not seeing an awful lot. Still got an open RSI 14 bicycle here, but it's not this straight distance from when it fixed. That's not particularly important, I don't think. We will see, but I'm liking the prospects for going up here, subject to getting awful news, which is obviously a distinct possibility today. Right, looking at Dia. Dia, we saw a test below the test of the daily middle band, and that has now broken below. So we will see whether that recovers above it, but if that stays below and sustains trade below it, obviously that would lean bearish. But the RSI 14 sell signal on Dia has now made target. That was the last one, I think, and we've got possible positive divergence on the RSI 5. Here, we're actually getting pretty close to the head and shoulder neckline. And if we get bad news today, we could actually just go down and make the targets on all of those. We're pretty close to it, and obviously we're not going to have to hit any 3SD lower band to hit that on Dia. All right, let's have a look at IWM. IWM, on the daily chart, we closed yesterday significantly below the daily middle band. We had closed marginally above it, but effectively on it the day before. On the hourly chart, RSI 14 sell signal has made target there too. This kind of looks like a bull flag forming, although we've got a possible head and shoulder neckline in the 271 area that, if we go lower, could be hit and set up a larger reversal pattern. We will see how it goes. In terms of the patterns from the late March low, this is a pretty nice looking rising wedge, which is breaking down here. This could just be expanding, although it's already expanded once. You can see the initial one I've drawn in here. In terms of the Dia setup, nice looking rising wedge from the March low, which has broken down. So we will see. NDX, I don't have, Qs. Qs, this is a nice looking, I think this was a rising channel actually, and that's broken down too. These could all be expanding into larger patterns and taking us to larger highs or retests of the existing highs. On SPX, we had a nice looking rising wedge too. That never quite expanded. I never had a decent trend line on the upside for the expansion. So, but again, I'm wondering about a high retest. We shall see. Because I think overnight, the news, apart from the fact that obviously the US have gone, the two sides have gone back to bombing each other in this increasingly bizarre ceasefire. The news that Iran didn't escalate was good. And the news that there was actually a deal that was being negotiated, and we got confirmation from someone who wasn't Trump of that, was actually fairly good. The fact that Trump has gone back to bombing to see if he can get his way and get better terms is bad. And if he continues doing that, then that may well escalate the war when the Iranians run out of patience, and they may start attacking much, much wider targets, in which case we're potentially looking at a disaster scenario, but we're not there yet. All right, let's have a look at the DAX chart. Reached the daily lower band, slightly under the 50-day MA. Still wondering about a possible high retest if we do see high retests on the US indices. And we are still holding the daily middle band by the Nikkei's fingernails, but nonetheless, and wondering about a high retest there too. All right, let's have a look at DX. DX, obviously, when there is trouble in the Middle East in this crisis, we've been seeing that going up. It hasn't gone up as much as I thought it might do, but we've come back up and retested this high. We shall see how it goes from there. In terms of the others, USD, not really seeing anything. GBP, not really seeing anything. USD JPY has reached the minimum double bottom target and is heading is getting pretty close to the retest of this high here that I was talking about. We will see. But I'm thinking it's likely to reach that fairly soon. USD CAD is still holding this rising megaphone. And this is just a pretty decent looking pattern with quite a few hits on the resistance trend line. So I'm still wondering whether that's going to deliver a move down or whether possibly we will see the megaphone break up. Australian dollar, we've still got a head and shoulders. We've still made lower lows after the initial bounce after the break. NZUSD has now made lower lows as well. These things are generally pretty good indications that we're going to make a serious effort at getting down to the target, and that is bullish for DX. All right, looking at ZB. ZB's been rallying a bit, interestingly, while we've been having this overnight trouble. Not an awful lot. We've still got double top that's broken down with a target, the 110.07 to 110.16 range, and there's still not much reason to think that isn't going to make the target. ZN, again, head and shoulders is broken down with a target in the 108.19 area. This doesn't look like a breakup. It kind of looks like a bear flag for me. So I'm still leaning towards bearish consolidations on both of those. What is there to say about the oil action? We got up to on Brent crude here. We got up to basically up to the 95 and 95.5 area, and then we dropped $4 overnight, which was just weird. So we've still got, and I'm using it as my chart of the day here, a very nice looking potential level bottom set up here, and I'm thinking that might deliver. The worse the news is in Iran, the more likely it is to deliver fast. In fact, if the news gets really bad, we can see this sky up at a hell of a rate. I think there's a pretty good chance this is going to play out over the next few weeks anyway. But if Iran starts attacking oil infrastructure and making much of the Middle East uninhabitable, then actually that could cause really, really big problems and cause major oil supply problems, which could last years to repair. Qatar, the Qatari natural gas facility that was attacked once by the Iranians, the repairs there are apparently going to take 5 years, and at the moment it's at half or less capacity. These things are very easy to destroy. They take quite a while to repair and a lot of money. CL, again, we saw a big move up overnight, and then we saw a big move down overnight, much of which has been recovered. I've got to say, looking at Brent, I was interested. I tend to draw lines on things a lot. Here, I was drawing a line on this earlier, wondering when we were, after the night retrace, wondering if there was a channel here. And I actually drew this channel support trend line when we were over here, and we hadn't hit it yet as the ideal place this would go to form a channel. Now, the good news is that we formed that channel, and we're bouncing back to flag resistance. The bad news is that we've got a bear flag channel there, which is suggesting that we might not be about to see the double bottom play out. We might instead be looking potentially at a move up to, let's say, 97 area, and then a fail back into the retest of the lows, because that, in this context, is a bear flag channel. So watching that with great interest. I'm thinking if we get up to 97, then it might be time to lighten up on oil longs for a while, because we might then go back and just go back and test the low back under 90, because that currently is a perfect bear flag channel, and they generally end up with low retests. Not always, but generally. So that is a warning. In the short term, we've got a 15-minute buy signal fixed. We had a 5-minute buy signal, which has made target. Nothing on the hourly chart. So I'm leaning towards more upside, and the target I've got in mind here is the channel resistance, which on Brent here is slightly about 80 or 90 cents above the overnight high, at about 97.2. Obviously, that's also a moving target, but I'm thinking we might make that today, and it's possible. Maybe we'll break up from it, but if we don't, then we're kind of leaning towards seeing another retest of the low. All right, great. Let's have a look at HO. That would fit with HO, which hasn't seen the retest of this low here yet, although we wouldn't be forming a double bottom here anyway, but that is the target after the failure of the IHS, which has most definitely failed. RBOB looks like a double bottom here. NG is failing to get back over the monthly pivot and hold it, so I'm leaning towards seeing a test of this rising support in the 3.04 area now. GC, we have a 60-minute buy signal fixed. Last one failed, of course, and I'm thinking this could deliver a decent rally. I'm wondering about about a low retest after that to set up positive divergence on the daily chart. We have made the full target here, which was the retest of this low. SI, we have not quite made it to the retest of this low here, although actually no, I think we have made it. But the spot price is not showing that to me yet. Wondering if that might actually change after that goes through to the charts, so we shall see. All right, great. Looking at palladium. Palladium, we've got possible bottoming action, platinum, possible bottoming action, 60-minute buy signal brewing. HG, we've still got a beautiful nested double top here, and I'm leaning towards the short side here. But if we do see a rally and retest the highs on the equities, then we may see this retest the highs here too. Looking at KC. KC, possible little level bottom, wondering if that's breaking up with a target in about the 258 area. Looking at SB, we got a possible level bottom here too, but I'm still leaning towards seeing a move down to retest the slow here. Possible if we get a move back up over the monthly pivot though, that this may be heading back up to retest this high. This is a pretty nice looking potential level bottom as it looks now. CC, still wondering about a test of the target in the 35.19 area, and we are not that far away from it. Lumber has been creeping up, but we've now got a 60-minute sell signal fixed. This could be an overall bear flag forming, but I don't think we reached the channel resistance trend line. No, we didn't. So I don't really have a decent trend line for this. But nonetheless, this may well be a bear flag forming. CT, wondering about bottoming action. Weak 60-minute buy signal is fixed. Little level bottom is has broken up, but it's too small really to mark in. Looking at DW, we had a little IHS which broke up. I think that's pretty close to failing at the moment. Might see a retest of the low there. Corn, 60-minute buy signal has reached the possible near miss target. Soy, the 60-minute buy signal reach target. These are all showing what could be bottoming action here, but doesn't need to be. ZL, still got a possible head and shoulder, right shoulder forming, otherwise resume uptrend. Live cattle, we had a head and shoulders breakdown here, that failed. I'm still looking for a retest of this high here in about the 251.50 area, and HE is still continuing down. The 60-minute buy signal didn't fail yesterday, but it was a close run thing. We shall see. All right, great. Let's have a quick look at questions. All right, great. Okay, brilliant. In that case, no questions. I think it's a wrap. Everyone take care. Should be an interesting day. And I am very much wondering about still doing that retest of the lows in RTH. And if we see that, then that would give me the bottoming setup. If we get enough bad news, it might just go down through that bottoming setup, but that would give me the bottoming setup that I was looking for yesterday. And we might still see that this morning. All right. Everyone take care. Catch you tomorrow.